Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pollux the Wise, and I hope you guys are doing absolutely frogging splendid, taking care of yourselves, and as always, staying safe. In today's YouTube video, we are diving into part 4 of the modding tutorial for the game Kingdom Rush Vengeance on Steam. And in today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at how to modify certain spells, our emergency spells. Not necessarily the soul impact, since that was going to be a pretty similar process to what we'll be doing today, which is taking a look at the reinforcements, paths, and upgrades, and we're going to be readjusting it and modding it so that the reinforcements in Kingdom Rush Vengeance are a little bit better than they currently are at right now. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started. So as always, we're going to be starting at the same file path starting point as we have in our previous tutorial parts. If you guys haven't checked those out, by the way, please make sure to go do that right now, as that will definitely help you guys have a better understanding of how to navigate the various files. There's going to be a couple different files we're going to be dealing with today, but first, we're going to go into the file underneath KRV labeled Settings. So if we double-click that there, we should see this list pop up here, and the first thing we're going to want to do is click on Power_Settings. So double-click that, full screen it. Now you're going to notice that the first thing that pops up here is Reinforcement Melee. And it says Type 2, Army Type 1, and the cooldown is set to 14 seconds, it's set to Infinite, and that is set to True. Now, we're going to change this cooldown to 10 seconds. The reason we're going to be doing this is because 10 seconds is the traditional cooldown from KR1, Kingdom Rush Frontiers, and from Kingdom Rush Origins once you have max star upgrades. In this instance, we have max soul upgrades, but the cooldown for the reinforcements never gets adjusted. It's always going to be at 14 seconds, unless we change it, which we're doing right now, to 10 seconds, so that it's a little more akin to the previous vanilla versions of the predecessors of this franchise. So without that, obviously your reinforcements are going to take longer to recharge, so you want to make sure that you take care of that. And there are some cooldowns here for other things. There's reinforcement frames, reinforcement support. I believe this is in regards to some various hero skills. I'm not sure what the 40-second cooldown one was, but we do know that the reinforcement warmongers_ogre one, that is in reference to Varuk's cooldown for his spearmongers, warmongers, whatever you want to call them. And then further on down here, there is some code for the power_soul_impact. And that, as you can see, we've already modified it. We've made it a ridiculously long cooldown, which I will be demonstrating. I'm not sure if I already did in the last live stream or not, but you guys will get to see it again, just in case you happen to miss that live stream, which you can go back and rewatch. And also, we increased the max number of impact effects. We increased the Call of the Damned. Just a bunch of different things that make Soul Impact a lot stronger. However, the unfortunate thing is you can only use it once per level. So now that we've finished modifying the cooldown for the reinforcements, we've changed it from 14 seconds to 10 with this line of code right here at the very tippy top of the file. We can go ahead and Control+S key to save our changes, or if you want to, you can go to File and either Save or Save As. And once you've done that, we can go ahead and exit this window real quick, and now we're going to jump into another file, Units_Settings. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's click on that file. Let's go ahead and full screen it so you guys have a lovely view of it. Now, in order to get to the portion of the code where you're going to modify the reinforcements, we're going to pull up our handy-dandy Find tool, which is Control+F. We're going to see this little box pop up here as per usual. And this is the exact word that you're going to want to type into the box, demons. So if you hit Find Next, and you have the direction set to down instead of up, and, excluding any of the other boxes here with match case or wraparound being unchecked, our first result should put us at the appropriate spot. So we're going to see underneath the demons key here, we're going to see demons Goonies. So demons_Goonies. That's what you should see right here under this secondary indented key here. And we're going to notice that the health is at 30. Now, I'm fine with this. I don't think this needs really much change. We could give them a little bit of a health increase just so that they are a little bit more tanky, considering the fact that we're going to be buffing enemies in this game considerably, I might add. It probably wouldn't hurt just to give the reinforcements all around a slight rework or buff. Some changes that are going to make these guys a little more versatile, a little bit better. So their melee, as you guys can see, has a cooldown of 1 second, and they deal 1 to 2 damage, 1 on the minimum end and 2 on the maximum end. We're going to go ahead and change that to 2 to 4. Not a very big change, but it'll just give them a little bit more versatility when it comes to just dealing chip damage. We're going to change the regeneration cooldown to 1 second from 2. The healing points I'm fine with. I don't think we need to change anything about that. Now, the lifetime of the reinforcements is 12 seconds. And as you guys know from the previous Kingdom Rush games, when you put down a pair of reinforcements, by the time that you put down a second set, if you use the ability instantly as soon as it's done recharging, typically you can have 2 sets of reinforcements on the battlefield at any one point in time. And if you call a wave early enough, you can even get down 3. You can't really do that with the demons in this particular version of the game. However, that being said, we're going to need to increase the lifetime of the reinforcements if we want to accomplish this. So we're going to go ahead and make the lifetime 20 seconds so that they don't disappear as quickly as they did before. Now, we have the Infernal Combustion ability. So this is the next thing under the list of skills that they have. And as you guys can see, it deals 20 physical damage within an area of 90. And it has a max number of units that it can affect, or damage, if you will, which is set to 5. So we want to up this drastically. We want these guys to be able to affect whole hordes of enemies. We're just going to make this something insane like 20. So 20 enemies within a range of 90. This is pretty good, I think, for now. I'm comfortable with this damage. Maybe we'll buff it a little bit to like 25. You guys can obviously leave this number to be the same as it is currently in the vanilla version, or you can buff it or change it, nerf it, however you basically want to. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead down to the demons underscore Goonies underscore trained. So this is the second tier of reinforcements. As you guys can see, they have 60 health and 10% physical armor. I'm fine with that. Maybe we'll just up it to 20% so they're a little bit more tanky, and we'll up their health just slightly to 75 from 60. And if we scroll down further, we can see here that there is the same melee cooldown, and the damage is 2 to 3. So let's go ahead and buff this a little bit more. We'll put it at, say, 5 to 8. Just for giggles. Like I said, you guys can make this whatever you want. We're going to change the cooldown for the regeneration to 1 second so they don't take as long to regenerate their health. And once again, we're going to adjust the cooldown for their lifetime to 20 seconds. Now, the range for the Infernal Combustion. I feel like since this is a level 2 ability, level 2 reinforcements probably have a little bit more range in terms of their Infernal Combustion. I understand, visibly speaking, they don't change all that much, but I think a slight buff to this would be nice. So let's go ahead and increase the Infernal Combustion area from 90 to 100. Once again, we'll change the max number of units that this ability can affect in terms of enemies up to 20, so it's much more versatile against a crowd of enemies. And the instant damage, well, we made tier 1 25. I think it would be cool to kind of double this to 50 at level 2. Considering how much we're going to be buffing enemies, this might sound like a lot on paper as far as a substantial buff to a level 2 set of reinforcements, and having such a busted ability, basically being able to deal 50 instant damage. It sounds OP on paper, but when you consider the fact that we're going to be buffing enemies as much as we are, it really is going to scale accordingly. It's not going to be that much of an impact. Yes, it will help, but it's not going to be anything crazy. Now, Demon Guards. This is a heavily underutilized path, at least from my own personal experience. I've always gone for Demon Helions with the burning forks, or tridents, whatever you want to call them. Coziness calls them forks. I call them tridents. Tomato, tomato. Same thing. But now, looking at their health, these guys are kind of meant to be tanks on the battlefield. Miniature tanks, mind you. And they don't really do a great job of that. That being said, I want to give these guys a complete rework, so let's go ahead and get started and see what we can do. First of all, their health is just a little bit too low. I want to make these guys a little more akin to the demon spawn from Kingdom Rush 1. So we're going to increase their health to 300, which is the original vanilla stats from their HP, if I remember correctly, on veteran difficulty. So 300 health on veteran. Their physical armor is not something that they would have had from KR1, so I think instead what we're going to do is give them medium magic resistance like they had from the original edition of Kingdom Rush. I can't remember if it was anywhere between 40, 50, or 60%. It was one of those three. We're just going to give it the benefit of the doubt and set their magic resistance armor rating to 60%. So we're going to set armor to 60, and we're going to change the armor type to 1. So now that we've done that, Now that we've made these guys a lot more beefy and given them magic resistance instead of physical armor rating, I think they're going to be a little bit better against enemy ranged units that are trying to snipe them from afar, and that'll give them a little more versatility. That being said, they also have more HP, so they're going to be able to shrug off a couple hits from beefier enemies. And if we look at their skills, their melee damage drastically needs an increase. So, really quick, what we can do here is go to the Kingdom Rush wiki, because unfortunately I don't have their damage memorized off the top of my head. And we're going to see how much damage they deal. So let me go ahead here real quick and just pull this up on my phone. I apologize, I probably should have that up on a separate tab underneath, my second monitor. Could have done that, but oh well, my phone's sitting right here. Might as well use the darn thing. So we can keep the video nice and clear for you guys. So the wiki is saying that they deal 10 to 30 damage. So let's go ahead and change their damage min-max accordingly to reflect that. So 10 to 30 physical damage. And I am also seeing that the magic resistance was at 60%, so I was correct on that, which is great. Great to know that I was correct on that. So let's go ahead and change the cooldown to 1 second. The healing points, we're actually going to buff to 20. And this is because they now have drastically more health at 300 health instead of 150, so it's double the health. So obviously we want to scale the regeneration capabilities accordingly. Now the area modifier death. Unfortunately, this next ability is not going to be scaled exactly like the Infernal Combustion from the original game, because they're only going to deal, so much damage as opposed to what they originally dealt. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but basically their Infernal Combustion does 50 to 100 physical area damage. And these guys are meant to have drastically bigger, Infernal Combustion explosions. So let's go ahead and change the range of this. 90 is just a little bit too small of a range. Let's go ahead and make this something like 150. I think that would be good. So that's going to give them some pretty substantial explosion range. We'll set the max units once against 20 so that they can affect a greater number of units. And actually, we could even make this 25. Give them more crowd control than the Demon Goonies that were their predecessors before them. And the instant damage, well, 50 to 100 from the vanilla version of the wiki. It's a good amount, but I still feel like it's a little bit too low. I think we're going to go ahead and buff this to 150. Again, on paper, this is going to sound absolutely busted, but when you see how much we're scaling the stats for enemies, these guys, they'll be able to take down, basic units, sure, and, one explosion, but anything beyond that, it's not going to be as much as you guys might think. So with that being said, now that we've got that instant death damage situated, the Infernal Nova. This is interesting. I didn't realize that their Infernal Combustion was different from Infernal Nova. So let's see what they have here. It seems like they were doubling the damage. Maybe we could make this even more busted. What if we change the damage to 200? I wonder which one of these changes is going to take effect. I guess we'll find out. So the max units, once again, we're going to buff it to 25. We're going to buff the range a little bit to 150. And this should be basically it for the Demon Guards. With all of these changes that we've made, I think they should be good. Now, Demons _ Helion _ Tridents. This should just be the basic version of the Helion Tridents that don't have the flaming projectiles. That being said, we'll find out later on in the code if that happens to pop up. Hopefully it won't. But essentially, these guys are meant to be glass cannons. They're not meant to be very tanky units. I'm honestly fine with their health. We could lower it just a little bit to, say 100, so they're even less tanky. And maybe we'll give them 30% magic resistance instead of, 10% physical armor. That just kind of seems ridiculous. We could make it 60% like the Demon Guards. Considering that they have such low health, I don't know if that's a great idea or not. But keep in mind, guys, that because they have the Infernal Combustion ability, you kind of want them to explode at certain points. That sounds so sus. Don't take that out of context. But my point is, though, in all legitimate seriousness and jokes aside, that you don't want the reinforcements to last too terribly long, because a lot of the damage that you get from them isn't necessarily from their attacks. Yes, they're helpful for stalling, but the extra death damage is going to make a difference, or at least somewhat. So we'll keep the armor at 30% magic resistance. Don't forget to change the resistance type if you guys don't already know. 1 is for magic resistance, 0 is for physical armor rating. Okay, so there is a modifier for burn if we scroll down here further and we look at the list of abilities that they have. And the duration of the damage over time is 2 seconds, and the tick time is 0.2, the damage is 1, interestingly enough, the damage type is 0. I would have thought it would be true damage considering that these are flaming tridents. Very, very interesting. So apparently... Wow, this is so fascinating. So if we look at the melee, this is the melee damage at 3 to 6. And if we scroll further down... So what I'm seeing here is that there's a separate set of code for the damage over time for the burning tridents. But we're not even at the point yet where we're talking about like Helion tridents with the flaming upgrade. So this is kind of weird. I'm not sure precisely how to proceed here, but we can go ahead and adjust the level 3 Helion tridents damage, at least in melee combat, just a little bit, so it's a little more substantial. So let's go ahead and make this something like, say, I don't know, 7 to 11. Sounds silly, but it might work. The cooldown on the ranged attacks for this thing is currently at 1.5. Let's go ahead and give that a little bit of a buff. Just a slight buff. We'll make this like 1.2 seconds. And we're going to buff the range slightly as well so that they can throw these from further away. Because they don't feel that far when they get thrown. So now we're starting to see, this is so weird. So here's the modifier for burning. And as you guys can see, the damage over time is 1 with a damage type of 3, which is true damage for those of you guys who are unaware. 0 is for physical damage, 1 is for magic, 2 is for artillery, and 3 is for true damage. We could also upgrade the Burning Fork's damage to 2 instead of 1. I want to see what that does if we try that. And we'll do the same thing up here. Damage over time. What if we set that to 2? Just for giggles, just to see what happens. Now, as you guys can see, the projectile also deals 3 to 6 damage. Let's go ahead and buff that to 7 to 11. Again, these are arbitrary numbers. You can change your values to be basically whatever you want. I'm just going through and showing you guys how to get to the various stats that you are going to want to modify for the reinforcements. So here we see projectiles flaming, which deals base damage impact of 10 to 14. I think this is fine for the most part. Maybe we can buff it a little bit. We can make it, say, something like 12 to 16 damage instead. We'll adjust their regeneration to 1 second cooldown. And their lifetime is at 16 seconds, which is pretty high, but we're still going to change it to 20, just so that it reflects the vanilla versions of the predecessing games. I don't know if predecessing is even a word. I've just made it up. Whoops. So with that being said, I don't see another Burning Trident's chunk of code. So I think we made all the changes, at least for the ranged portions of this reinforcement set, that we can. We'll go ahead and once again, we're going to change the Infernal Combustion area. Now, because these are Helion Tridents, they're not supposed to have as big an explosion as the Demon Guards. So we're going to keep the range at 100 instead of 150. We'll keep the max units the same, though. 20. And the instant damage, well, we can set this to be something like somewhere in the middle from like the vanilla version of the Demon Spawn's Infernal Combustion. So 75 instead of 150. And that should make it so that if you guys want bigger death explosions, the Demon Guards are going to be a lot better for that. The Helion Trident's not as much. Now let's move on to the Demons _ Pit Lord. Now he currently has 220 health. This bad boy, as chonky as he is, he ain't chonky enough for my taste. Okay, so we're going to actually change some stats about him. We're going to give his health bar the funny number, 666. That's the demon, the Mark of the Beast's, number. So we're going to give him that HP. We're going to give him 60% magic resistance. I don't believe in giving these guys physical armor. It just doesn't make sense to me. Again, obviously, you guys can keep their physical armor rating. That's your own prerogative. But me personally, I think that demons should have magic resistance most of the time, not armor. Although you could argue that the Pit Lord, minus the wings, kind of does look like he would have a similar appearance to the Demon Legions from Kingdom Rush 1, so perhaps there could be an argument made for that. Either way, if we take a look at his melee, he has a 2-second cooldown with 33 to 66 damage. We're just going to change this so that there's no RNG. 66 damage on every single hit, with a damage type of 0. And as for the ranged attacks, well, this is on a 2-second cooldown. let's go ahead and buff this a little bit to a 1-second cooldown, just so that it's a little more versatile. We could also do the same thing with the melee as well, just to make it a little bit stronger. So let's go ahead and do that. This guy's meant to be a powerhouse on the battlefield as far as like stalling and damage is concerned, so we might as well make him very busted. So we'll go ahead and once again set the damage min and max to 66, but this is also an area attack. It has a damage area, so let's go ahead and increase that from 100 to 150 so it affects more enemies. And now that we've done that, let's go down to the cooldown for the regeneration, set that back to 1, and improve the healing points to 25 since he's such a chonky boy who has a lot of health. But to compensate for all of these changes, we are going to nerf his cooldown for his lifetime, so how long he sticks around on the battlefield, by 1 second. Originally it was 16 seconds. We're going to put this at 15 seconds now, because we did give him some pretty substantial buffs. And as far as the damage modifier is concerned for the Infernal Combustion, once again, he's a big chonky boy, he should have a big range, and he should be able to affect a lot of units. So 25 max units can be affected with a range of 150, and we're going to make the instant death damage 200. Notice that the damage type is 2, interestingly enough, for this guy, whereas the others, I'm pretty sure it was just 0 for physical damage. So that is interesting to know. And now that we've done that, we are basically done with our changes. So let's go ahead and make sure that we've saved our code. Control+S, or you can go to File, Save or Save As, and we'll exit out of here. We can exit out of this file now as well, and let's go into the game and test our changes. Keep in mind, though, that we are going to be testing the vanilla version of the game as far as enemies are concerned. So these guys should be able to go toe-to-toe with a lot beefier enemies. But I know just the level to test the reinforcements on. I don't want towers, I want powers, upgrades. So we have the Helion Tridents currently selected. We'll go ahead and test them first. And I'll also showcase the Soul Impact if you guys haven't already seen it in the live stream. So here we have Margosa, who I've also actually modded.
You'll be a fine feast.
And let's go ahead and test out these reinforcements. We should see a quicker cooldown. So as you guys can see here, our changes do reflect. As does the changes to the Demon Pit Lord. He's a lot chonkier now, a lot quicker. And the reinforcements do throw their tridents a little bit faster, noticeably so. And their damage has been improved. And as you guys can see here, this is recharging just a little bit quicker than it normally does. So that does seem to be working, which is perfect. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of some snow golems here. And as we can see, Margosa has barely had to do anything yet, which is hilarious. So these reinforcements are literally holding off the vanilla versions of the Draugrs on their own. We haven't modified any of the enemies yet, at least for this particular faction. So what I'm waiting for is for the Frost Giants to spawn in. That's when we're really going to get to test these guys. But now, since we're in the process of waiting and there's a big horde of enemies, let's go ahead and use Soul Impact real quick here. And as you guys can see, it pretty much just utterly annihilates the battlefield. Rains down a bunch of extra effects in various spots. And let's go ahead and test out the Helion Tridents versus the Frost Giant. And he literally one-shots them because they don't have that much health. Oh.
I never drink.
Margosa, you numbnuts. Pulled the Frost Giant towards you in the wrong place. I don't want that to happen. So yeah, these guys only have 100 health.
I find your suffering exquisite.
Okay.
Not my blood type.
That's getting annoying. Let's see if we can get these guys to go into melee combat. So here comes the Pit Lord. He's going to be fighting this Demon Lord. Oh, he disappeared. Whoops.
You'll be a fine feast.
But as you guys can see, these guys are basically glass cannons. They only survive one hit from a Frost Giant, and this is just on the vanilla version of the game. Here's a Pit Lord. Let's see if we can finally get one to go into melee combat. And it seems that the Pit Lord completely missed these guys. Whoops. Okay, let's see how long the Demon Lord lasts now that Margosa is out of the action, quickly. So it seems like he's already lost most of his health in about 5 hits. And very nice. Look at that death damage. Wow, that was insane. Okay, that took out way more of his health than I anticipated. That's actually kind of nuts. But yeah, as you guys can see, they take a lot of death damage now. Even with the, you know, even with the Infernal Combustion and the armor. So, yeah, these guys definitely put in some work on the Frost Giants, which was completely unexpected. I did not expect the Pit Lord to be that strong. We might have to nerf him a little bit for the purposes of the mod. But now let's go ahead and check out the Demon Guards. I keep selecting towers. I don't know why I'm doing that. Let's go ahead and just get all our upgrades back in order. Go ahead and stick with Margosa. And go back into the same level.
I never drink wine. I find your suffering exquisite.
So if we put down the Demon Guards, we can now see that their HP, their damage, and their magic resistance is obviously reflected appropriately. They don't last very long, though. Which I'm not sure if I just simply forgot to adjust their cooldown for their lifetime. But it seems like they're disappearing far faster than normal. Yeah, it seems like we barely have enough time to get another pair down before we call in the next set. So perhaps I forgot to change that. We'll need to fix that in the next update. And what also sucks is we don't really get to see these guys in action against Frost Giants for a little bit while yet. But they are holding a lane on their own, which is pretty darn good. They're pretty much melting through these Draugrs. And look at these Pit Lords going burr. There's 4 Pit Lords on the map. That is insane. So yeah, clearly we forgot to change the cooldown for the Demon Guards. The Pit Lords are literally outlasting them, which is hilarious. And there is a 5th Pit Lord in a row. What are the chances? I don't know if I changed the percent chance to like 100% or something. I don't think we had it. Okay, finally we got a set without the Pit Lord. So let's see if we can go ahead and watch these guys here. I'm predicting, yeah, 2-3 swings. This guy already lost about 100 plus health. Oh yeah, that's some juicy damage. So if you keep stalling these guys with these fast reinforcement cooldowns, you can get some good damage on these guys and take out a decent chunk of their health. They're basically just getting permastalled because of the cooldown, which is insane. But make no mistake, we're obviously going to be buffing Frost Giants so that they can, you know, punch through reinforcements that are lower tier appropriately. Not that these aren't low tier reinforcements, obviously, but, you know, it is what it is. And as far as Soul Impact is concerned, if you guys want to see how strong it is, we'll just wait until these Frost Giants group up and check out what happens to them when we unleash absolute monstrosity in terms of hell on these guys. Look at this. Just absolutely wrecked. The only problem is the cooldown for the Soul Impact has been changed drastically, so you can truthfully only use this once per level. But with that all out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, that is basically going to do it for the end of today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you guys want to see more of this type of content, let me know down in the comment section below or the chat if you guys want to see some specific things in the next part or tutorial for this series. Please let me know that down in the comment section below too. In any case, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your frogging afternoons. This is Pollux the Wise. Peace out.